bit of the time that I've been spending creating new liveries. Obviously, I think I've broadcast a car show or two, and car shows, for those that haven't watched any of my broadcasts before, are basically where you enter a room, a track room, and rather than race or drift or do any of the other things that people do, like real life simulation driving, etc., cops and robbers, dirty racing, all those things, is you actually show off the liveries that you've created. As you can see by the screen there, you start off with the ability to create 1,000 different liveries. As you can see, I am at 117. I've got 883 design slots left, if I can call them that. And so I guess I'm reasonably along the path of using liveries. I started doing a livery yesterday which I didn't finish, but I thought I'll jump into that one because it was a recently gifted car, and a gifted car, for those that don't know, is a vehicle that as you spend time playing the game, in particular racing in racing rooms, once you accumulate a certain distance of racing or time, you then get gifted what they call a daily workout car. And you can get it another way. You can get it by doing some of the track experiences or competing in campaigns or other sport related events. But this one was just for racing, and it was a Toyota FT1, which is effectively the concept car that's led to the soon-to-be or already recently released Toyota Supra. So this vehicle is wearing the naked paint colour that it came in as a gift car. That's an unusual thing for me. Normally I will change the colour, but I have to say, when I saw this colour in that, I don't even know what they call the colour, but it's a black, obviously, of some description, I thought, I think I like that colour. So what I want to try and focus on today is a couple of things. And the first thing is that when you go to the car shows, a lot of what I see are people that are just copying other people's liveries, and look, each to their own. They can do that if they want to. For me, I think the fun is actually creating your own livery, because then it is your car, it is unique. It's not a design that you've borrowed from somebody else's creative ability and endeavours. You've effectively done it from the ground up for yourself. The other thing that I want to touch on is really the simplicity around what are, I guess, fundamentally crude design tools and design resources, but how you can play with them to come up with some fairly captivating and fairly amazing looking designs. And I guess as this car is rotating on the screen, and as you look at it at the moment, you may regard it as looking fairly naked, and that of course will depend on your view of liveries based on your own experience within the game or awareness of the game, because obviously a lot of the game, being GT Sport, is about racing, and then by default that means racing cars. And obviously, as you probably know, racing cars are known for all of the paraphernalia or signage that are put on them from sponsors, etc., because obviously they need those sponsors to fund their racing escapades. So this vehicle here, if I go into decal, which is where you effectively go to put things on the car, quick menu. The preview is what we're in now, so it's just spinning around the car and showing. Background allows you to change the colour. So a lighter car, you might want a dark background. I never touch the background because I just want to try and see the car in the most natural light, and obviously a whitish background or a more real life colour background is the best. Paint is where you go in and select all the different paint colours. Now, I can't go in there and show you because I have to hit that button to go in there to show you all of the colours, and there's two, if you like, palettes. There's your standard colour palette, and there's what they call the special colour palette, and you obtain those special colour palettes through what they call the mileage exchange, which is another form of credits that you build up that you can then use to exchange for special colours, and some of those colours are amazing. I think this is probably a special colour, even though it didn't tell me that, but if I push the button it will actually prompt me to say that I'm going to lose that paint scheme as it sits right now in the car, so I won't do that. Decal is where you go in and you add things to the paint, and a very quick description of that when we go into it, as you'll see, is that it's a layer based protocol that they use. So each of those colors as they appear on the vehicle are layered, and the beauty of that is that it does allow you to come up with some really cool ways and looks, because as you can see, that blue color overrides the purple overrides the red, and so forth. So it gives you that extra technique to create a more interesting design. Wheels, I can go into wheels, it won't affect the car, and you again have the ability to change the wheels on the vehicle. Obviously not all wheels are available to all vehicles for whatever reason, and I think that's because if you look at the name of the wheel as it pops up, it is actually a legitimate brand. So it's actually a real wheel manufacturer, so obviously that wheel manufacturer would expect some level of reality around the wheels that they have and the compatibility of the wheels that they design as far as suitability or compatibility with a particular vehicle. So not all of them are available. I've already spotted a couple that look really good, as much as I like the standard wheels, so I now, by doing this, I have a bit of even those wheels look nice. I have got a bit of a conundrum now, because I had set myself to not change the wheels, which would be a very rare thing for me, but unfortunately I think temptation is going to get the better of me, and I'm going to change wheels. The one thing I will say about wheels is that I've certainly had a change in my approach over the last probably 10 or 15 designs that I've done, and that is that what I used to do is, as I said, I would pretty much change the colour of every vehicle I've got. I'm not sure if that's 100% correct, but it's definitely in the high 90s that it's correct that I've changed every colour. But what I would do is I would change the colour straight away, and then I would look for the wheels, and I would pick the wheels, both in terms of the design and if I decided to go with a different colour, because you can again colour the wheels. But what I've done for the last 10 or 15 is I've actually not done that. I've left the wheels until last, and I'm actually finding that's a better method, because once the car is completely done, as far as the design goes, you get a better handle on what wheels better suit the car. So that's been a learning thing for me, and I certainly encourage anybody else doing livery designs, if they don't do it that way already. If they do, good, you guys are ahead of me, but if you don't and you are in the process of doing livery designs, I certainly would suggest you try that strategy, if I can call it that, or process, because I think you'll find you will come out of it with a better tyre wheel choice, I should say, and it will obviously give the design even more impact. So yeah, anyway, I'm not going to do it right now. As I said, I'm going to be true. I'm going to let the design take its course first, because I still may find that standard wheel, which is a very beautiful wheel. When I jump into decals, we are actually allowed to zoom in and manipulate the angles, etc., that we view the car from, and you'll get a better look at those wheels. But I have to commend the Toyota design team for coming up with a wheel that really off the bat suits the car. It's not very often that manufacturers get their wheel designs to be truly harmonious with the car design itself. Very few of them get it right. No matter how good they are, I think if I think about the company that I think hits the mark the most often, I would personally say it's Lamborghini. However, Ferrari don't do a bad job. BMW, I think, do a relatively good job when you consider that they are not that, top of the line manufacturer who can exhaust lots of money on wheel design, because they can retrieve that money through the cost of each vehicle. And I think also because the volume of vehicles they produce, that obviously brings into play different criteria around them probably having to stay more inside the bell curve when it comes to a wheel design, whereas a more limited or exclusive vehicle manufacturer like a Ferrari, like a Lamborghini, like a McLaren, like a Bentley, like a Koenigsegg, not that Koenigsegg are in this game, but they obviously can have a more defined and niche market space, and so they can be more specific around wheel designs. And and I think that tends to follow that's why they probably lead in terms of beautiful standard wheel designs. It's not very often that you see any of those cars running around with non-factory or OEM fitted wheels. Probably the exception to that would be some areas of the States, like the West Coast in California, where even the most prestigious cars often get tuned and tweaked. And probably the other area that first comes to mind is the Middle East, where again I think the desire to have ultimate exclusivity drives them to change the appearance of their cars, whether it's through the factory or whether it's aftermarket. Anyway, so that's my view on wheels. So I'll get out of this menu. Racing items. So if it's a race car, then a few options come up for you, like your race number being displayed on the car, front windscreen display, the livery of your driver, because each race car will have a driver sitting in it, so you can actually opt for the race suit that the driver wears, the helmet. You can put the driver's name on a side window. There's a few things that come. You can actually pick a tyre manufacturer to sit on the sidewall of the tyres as well. So I'll just quickly show you those. As I said, driver name, and you can then pick the livery. Light covers if it's a race car. There's a yellow lighting, which again, of course, is all about if you're driving in a Sebring 24-hour or a Le Mans 24-hour or a Spa 24-hour or a Nürburgring 24-hour race, and there may be early morning fog or something like that, and you just want that, or rain, and you want that I guess an additional light effect. Anyway, that's enough said about that. Options. Yeah, so this again is all about the stuff around when you're in here doing the design. I'm not going to spend time on it because it's not really relevant to doing the livery itself. But that's a quick tour. So, as I said, we'll go into decal. So like I said, once you're in here, you obviously have the ability to manipulate the angle at which you're viewing the car, which I'm doing right now myself through my controller. You can do this on your wheel if you have a wheel. My suggestion is avoid the annoyance factor of trying to do it on your wheel, because it's certainly not as easy as using your hand controller. And I'd be very, very surprised if people that are seriously into doing livery designs do it with anything else other than their handheld controller. So I did mention about the wheels, so I will zoom in a bit and give you a better look at them. That as a standard wheel, that's a fairly impressive piece of design there, and I imagine a fair amount of engineering went into the structural integrity of it as well. So it's a beautiful wheel. Okay, so having said that, you've been watching the car circulate as I've been talking, so you've had a really good look at it. You can see what I've done and the areas that are yet to be touched. The one thing that I do want to say is that on the menu on the left there, that is effectively all the different parts of the vehicle that you add decals to. So the body, that's obviously the whole body, and then when you select that, as we're in at the moment because it's highlighted in white, if I say I want to add another decal, it'll then prompt me at the bottom here to choose which part of the car and obviously jump to it. So left side of the car, right side of the car, front of the car, back of the car, and the roof. The interesting thing about the roof is with car shows, and I love doing roofs. In fact, I probably spend more time than I should doing roofs. But the thing about car shows is that the way that they are done is that the judge, which is generally a democratic process of the winner of the previous round becoming the judge for the next round, is that you're obviously in your vehicle judging the cars. And so what that means is that even on your most extreme external angle, that rear roof view angle that you have when you're going round in the game, isn't quite high enough for you to be parked alongside another vehicle to see any roof livery that you've added. I find that a bit of a source of frustration. I certainly hope that Sony may come up with a way, or Gran Turismo, Mr. Kuzunori, will come up with a way to give us an additional view based on the fact that car shows themselves and this whole livery aspect of the game is certainly growing momentum. I think last night there were 3 different car showrooms, and each one of those had at least 9 vehicles in them. It's very rare now that you go into the game and don't find a car show, and I think it's really going to pick up. I know from my own perspective, the number of followers that I now have on the game, not that I go out and try to find followers, but I noticed last night that I have so many more followers now in this game at a shorter period than I had in Gran Turismo 6. And I really believe it's because of the car shows and the livery designs. I can't imagine why anybody else would want to follow me at all, because, you know, I'm not the game's fastest race car driver. I go okay. I don't put anything else on the game that's unique or of particular interest to any other player, so I have to assume it's purely because of the car designs. On my car designs, I have also, the other thing that I've started doing probably the last 15 is I'd actually do put my YouTube channel name on there, just so if people do want to go in and see any of my broadcasts or see any of the other cars that I've actually done in broadcasts or captured, they can. And I think that may also be part of it. Anyway, I'm digressing here and I apologise. So if I can just go, I'll go left just to get back into, no, actually I'll just go back. So I guess what I wanted to touch on here is that if you look at the menu on the left, you can see how many decals you can add. So for body, you can add 300 decals, side mirror 50, etc., etc. You can all read. I'm not going to quote the numbers for you. But what I did want to say is that I mentioned before about the great thing about these decals, and that is that effectively for the body, I have used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 decals. In fact, I've used 3, because if you have a look, you'll see there's 2 of each of the colours of that shape. And the reason I want to point that out is because you can see that on the body, the use of those small number of decals has managed to cover a lot of the body and create a fairly cool effect. And like I said, it's really only 3, because for me, the design process, I'm very much about symmetry. So when I create a decal, I'm usually doing it from the perspective, particularly on the sides of the body, that it's going to be mirrored on the other side. So, you know, the light blue mirror, you can see the cross going to there. If I spin, you'll see it's that circle, that blue circle on that side. As I scroll down to the other blue circle, it's the blue circle on the other side. So, trying to get it to... Generally, the cross will plant itself right in the middle of the decal, so that's why it's sitting right in the middle of that blue loop. If I go to red, you'll see it move to the middle of the red loop, and if I go to wrong side, if I go to purple, it'll jump into the middle of that loop. So that's what it's doing in terms of you trying to understand that that grid reference point, or that little cross that's moving on the screen. So that's the side livery. At this moment in time, I'm not thinking of adding anything to that. What I will do is I will make something that effectively continues the theme from the side around to the rear. And what I'll also do is I'll figure out where I'm going to write my Iflowboy at YouTube message, because it usually ends up on either the back of the vehicle or it ends up down there on the side skirt. And if I zoom into that side skirt, which is an other category, so you can see other on the left hand side, and there's 6 liveries out of the 150 used, you can see that that is just clearly too thin for me to write anything that somebody could read. So this bit of real estate back here under the number plate itself is a bit too narrow to use, so I'm going to have to use this area here just directly below that number plate, or even across the number plate. I think what I'm going to end up doing to put my Iflowboy at YouTube, and it's got to be a reasonable size. Like if I zoom back out, if I'm normally playing the game, especially if I'm going fast at this distance, that FT1 isn't exactly easy to read. If I get up right behind it, then it is. So you've got to make sure that your font size for any lettering that you use, if you've got a message you want to share, it's got to be of a reasonable size. So you do need a reasonable amount of real estate, and Iflowboy obviously is an 8-letter proposition with your ampersand or your @ and then obviously a YouTube logo that sits at the back of it. The good thing is that I've got multiple color YouTube logos, so this one will be a white YouTube logo with a black lettering in it to stand out. Again, it's all about the visibility. Anyway, so the next step for me, once I've done the sides, is I will genuinely do the others, or the side skirts. I haven't touched the mirrors in this car, which are a little bit funky, but I'll do the front spoiler. I don't know what people call it around the world. I call them spoilers. You might call it a diffuser, you might call it a splitter, but it's this front section down here where the purple, red and blue is. Again, in terms of simplicity, what I tend to do is I try not to go with too many colours. There are some exceptions in my designs, but I tend to feel that a theme based around colours as well as patterns gives you the best effect in the end. This is going to be an interesting bonnet, because as you can see, the bonnet has this see-through cover exposing the engine bay, and the engine rocker covers by the look of it, effectively, or induction system covers. Anyway, so I've got to try and come up with a bit of, for want of a better term, a congruent or fluid linkage between the side and the top. So I might play around with the same shapes. So obviously I've got to go and grab the bonnet, so add layer, and then select bonnet. Oh, okay, it's not actually giving me a bonnet option by the look of it. Let me go back. Okay, so the bonnet, in this case, you will get these variances, but effectively the bonnet is just regarded as a whole part of the body in this case, and that makes sense if you look, because there are no bonnet panel cut lines there. Sorry, I'm just clicking the blue on my right joystick, because it actually gives you a different view of the car to see lines and things. It's almost like it removes all the colouring and gives you a neutral colour, but you can see there's no line. So in this case it's just going to be front, so I will select front. I will then go to the decal menu. So just to quickly show you in here, this is the decal menu. User decals are ones that I've actually created or uploaded myself as my own. I have none. I'm not a graphic designer. I wish I was. I have a good mate that is, and kudos and shout out to him, because he's currently fighting a health issue, so I hope Ace is doing okay. And then you have shapes. this is probably where I spend most of my time. There's not a lot of them, and you can see that it's quite restrictive, but it's amazing how the ability for you to manipulate, stretch, shrink, expand, widen, narrow the shapes, doing all those things, how it brings about different shapes. And I'll give you an example of that shortly, because I'll show you how the use of, that I think it's an octagon, is it? 3, 5, 8, yeah, but that's an octagon, that shape right there. And I'm pretty sure that's the one that I use. It's amazing how stretching that shape out can give you a totally different shape. I'm pretty sure it was an octagon, but we'll see. It was I did it on a Lexus RCF racing car, Group 4, I think it is. But anyway, these are the shapes. Now, what I've also got, if you look at the top menu, I've got my library, collection and favorites. If I go to collection, I have recently acquired a whole stack of logos from the library through the discover option in your GT menu option, which if you were in the main screen, your little GT icon up the top left. If you click on that, there's an option underneath your garage, etc. It's called Discover, and if you go in there, there are a whole stack of decals that wonderful people out there have both designed and have openly shared for others to benefit and enjoy. So a big shout out to all of those designers. You can see the names of those designers down the bottom there in white text under each. But as you can see, this grows every day. Literally, if I was to jump back into the Discover section in the game, I haven't been in there for 4 days, I would tip that there would be something like 200 or more new decals that have been designed. I think for me, the particular thing that got me going was these, and a real big shout out to Erlingo, because his work is absolutely fantastic. And he's done a fantastic job of creating these gold decals with the real fantastic use of darkness to create that 3D effect, as you can see from each of the logos. And he's probably my favourite designer, so massive shout out to Erlingo. He's not the only one that does them, but he's certainly the leader as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the use of the gold colour. In fact, my biggest gripe is that the game special colours don't, I can't yet get an exact matching gold. So if I wanted to do and I've done a couple, if I wanted to do a fantastic design with a gold and a black to then put these gold based decals on, I'd struggle to get the match, and I don't want to detract from these logos because they're fantastic. I've done one Ferrari which was a black paint, and I went crazy with these logos, to be honest, but it does look great, I believe anyway. Okay, so these are all fantastic again, and I may put a few of these on here, but I will most likely restrict myself to the manufacturer branding logos in here, because it's effectively a road car and not a race car. I'm not massive around putting on logos, but certainly I don't mind using the manufacturer's logos. And I've got some Toyota. Well, there's one there, TRD Pro. There's other TRD and Toyota logos in here that I will make use of. I'm just sort of scrolling through to find one or two as I'm talking, because I think that's important. That logo there that I'm highlighting, the Toyota one, that'll definitely make it on the car for one reason being that it's a red logo. I will probably be able to manipulate the colour on that as well, but just so you know, to give you a bit of an idea of the capability of the basic decals, I actually made that logo myself using those shapes, one of the shapes that I showed you, which was a circle, and just manipulating it. It's basically 3 circles. if you have a look at it, there's your bigger circle, which has been stretched to an oval. Then there's a smaller oval, which is, you know, still not as wide as it is long, and then you've got your vertical oval, which is way longer than it is wide, and that's all it is. It's just three ovals intertwined. So it took me 5 minutes to do it, to replicate it, because at the time I couldn't find just that logo. Now I've got one, obviously. So yeah, so shout out to all of the graphic designers who do this. They don't get anything for it from a financial perspective. We just have the ability to download them and use them. So you know, I really do want to thank everybody that's ever put a decal into the library for us all to share. Alright, so I've shown you that. Let's put something in here. So like I said, these are all the generic logos, sorry, just to touch on. So you'll see lots of brand names in here, like BBS and RI and Bilstein and Bosch, Brembo, and then tyre manufacturers, obviously. So you've got a lot of those options there. Then they've also created these fantasy logos, so they're not real, they're made up. And then you've also got other options that you can pick up from if you've uploaded a particular media piece, and that might be an image of somebody, it might, yeah, anyway. And then you can also look at things you bought, like, you know, race car signs. These are all signs that you have on a race car that show where the tow hook is, show where the electrical point is if you need to, you know, kill the engine, like the kill switch. I'm not even sure what that one might be. It might be the indication of where the fire extinguisher is. I have never checked that one, to be honest. I'm not familiar with it from my own Australian real track driving exposure. Yeah, don't know. Okay, so into shapes, and as I said, that shape that's currently being used is that there. So that is how it appears in its standard shape. Now it's showing a bit of abstract formation because of the fact that the bonnet itself has that concave surface. It's not a flat surface, you can see it's concave, so that's causing the shape to already be a little bit abstract. Now if I touch my L1 button, if you look at the menu option below there, you'll see L1 says modify. If I touch that button, my right joystick and my left joystick both allow me to manipulate the shape. So my right joystick, if I push it up, will stretch it out. If I push it to the right, it will stretch it out. So if I was talking about planes, pushing it up stretches it out on a vertical plane, pushing it to the right or the left stretches it out on the horizontal plane, so, you know, left to right, you know, left headlights to right headlights. And if I push it down, it effectively shrinks it on the vertical plane, you know, brings it back kind of to where it was. If I pull it back in, that's kind of where it was as an original shape. So yeah, so that's how you can manipulate. Now what you can also do is you can make them thicker or thinner, and you do that basically by oh, bear with me, just let me get this sorted. Oops, tilt the car. Where's my button? Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong button. That's actually obviously changing the if you like, the angle or the deflection of the shape. So I can go for a, you know, again, looking at the Toyota thing, that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about. Now I can bring it back to where it was. I don't know why it's not letting me make the shape fatter. Normally it would. I need to think about why that's not doing that. Anyway, so the interesting thing is that I'm noticing that it's not letting me go all the way up the bonnet area. So that says to me that part of the bonnet is actually also regarded as the body. That just adds a bit of an element to the design, although now it's letting me go up further. How bizarre is that? Okay, I'm guessing that that's because of the deflection of the shape, that we're losing the top of the circle. So let's continue to stretch it and see where we end up. Oh no, it's definitely stopping there, isn't it? Definitely not going beyond. So what the game is telling me is that that section, see it's totally disappeared there, that section is certainly not part of the front of the body, because we've now got the whole shape back at the top, but we lose it. You can see we're losing it. Interesting. So in doing all this, I've kind of probably lost my symmetry perfection in terms of the alignment. And again, you know, a lot of this is about how accurate your eye is in terms of how accurate you get the centering. Now, I could just quickly hit my circle button and it'll ask me to discard this decal. It'll take it off and I can just add it again and it'll land smack bang in the middle, so I'll get my perfect symmetry again. So I could easily do that, but I think I'm okay with that. I don't know what you all think, but that looks like it's in the middle. Now, I'm quite happy with that and I can work from that, and I'll show you what I plan to do. I plan to follow the same overlapping theme, and if I look at my layers, the red color is the lowest layer or the bottom layer. So hit that button and then we have some options here in the menu. That is your color. That'll open up the palette for us. Now, I'll click on it and it'll ask me for color palette. What you won't get at this point is you won't get access to the special colors. So a tip on that is that if you intend to use special colors, just bear in mind that you are going to have a tough time matching other decals to that special color if you're trying to do highlights and things like that. What you can do in the color palette tool, if I go down to where it says color palette, if I click on that, it brings up the rainbow, and I can then have a couple of ways of moving through the color spectrum, and then within that, if I plonk my cross down here, I'll see the color as the exact point that it's at and it'll show it on the car. What I can then do down here is I can move that in very small increments through the spectrum of that shading and it'll produce a different color. At the moment I'm moving horizontally, so you can see it changing, that little color swab there. And if I keep going, it'll get further to the right and the color will change again. And then vertically I can move up and down that spectrum as well, so you can see where the cross is now. If I zoom like this, it'll go up, and obviously it's going up to the more brighter red, and you can see the brighter red appearing on the decal on the vehicle. So that's one way for you to try and match your color with a special color. But I have to say, I think of all the times I've tried, I think I got quite close once. The rest of the times, if you were to put the two colors together on a vehicle in close proximity, you would see that they are not the same. Anyway, I'm not going to use that because I'm using standard colors. And the colors, once you use them on a design, they will populate down here. Beauty of that is obviously you make sure you use the same colors where you want to maintain that consistency. I don't know what the limit is to the number of colors that can appear down here. I think the most I've had is about 14, but I don't know the stats. You know, it'd be a case of going in and reading the online user guide about this stuff to understand that in detail. I haven't. But that's the colors that I've been using. You'll see there's two blues there. The reason there's two blues there is that I had an original blue that I tried and ended up going to the brighter blue. So once you've chosen it, it'll stay down there. I don't know how to remove it. You just have to bear in mind that once you do pick a color and apply it to a decal in this space, it will stay down there. Ideally, you'd want to have some other colors separating the two just to make it easy for you to remember which one's which, but anyway, for me at the moment on this design, it's not a big issue. So as I said, I want red. That's the red. I hit OK and I hit OK and bang, that's it. We've got the decal, it's loaded. Now, the other buttons. Because I'm doing this theme, as you see here on the side of the car, and the shapes are exactly the same, they've just moved around the vehicle, I'm going to do a duplicate. So I click this button and I've got some options that I can quickly do with that shape. Flip it horizontally. If I did that, it would basically turn it around. If I flipped it vertically, it would flip it over. So imagine, I don't know, something that you've got in front of you, a coin or something like that, you flip it over. Obviously it's whatever's on the other side, it's going to be the reverse. Duplicate, which is basically just duplicating it where it actually is, which is what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do it yet. Duplicate on reverse. Now, it won't duplicate on reverse if you're doing something at the front of the car or on the bonnet. It'll only duplicate on the other side of an area. For example, if I did this decal on the left hand side above that left hand headlight and then selected duplicate on reverse, it would duplicate it over above the right headlight. So that's their version of reverse. However, if you're doing it on the side of the car, or as they call it, left or right, and you select duplicate on reverse, if you're doing it on the left hand side of the car, it'll appear on the right hand side. Now, this button, if you're doing, I can't rotate the car to show you, but if you're doing a shape on the side of the car, and instead of it being horizontally correct, i.e. if you tilt it so that it has an angle, for example, it might trail from the lower front of the car up to the higher back right, what will happen is if you just duplicate it on the other side, it will maintain that line angle, and that may not be what you want. So the idea of the flip horizontally and duplicate is it'll maintain the exact same line on the other side of the car. So think of it like a mirror. When you look in the mirror, your left hand kind of appears to be your right hand, and so it looks different. What this does is it effectively allows for that, and it flips it to correct it. I guess is the easiest way to explain it. So, like I said, I will do a flip horizontally and duplicate just to show you, so bear with me. So duplicate, I hit duplicate, it's there. You can't see it because it's an exact duplicate in the same location. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to move it up to effectively try and emulate, in a way, the side. So here I go. So you see it moving now. The beauty of that function, if I can just go back, is that if you want to widen a shape, or if you want to have no gaps between two different shapes that might have different colors, then this is the best way of doing it, because you can see now I could just leave that there and I could leave it that color if I want to have a really thick effect, or I could change it if I want to do the blended colors as per the color scheme that I'm doing. But as you can see by the side, there's space and they overlap, and so I want to keep that idea going. So always try to align myself so I'm looking dead straight at the car when I'm doing this. I want a gap, but I've got to allow for the third color, so I'm going to go just above the logo in case I decide I want to do something with that logo, and I'll talk about that later, because you can overlay logos. A little bit of work, but you can do it if you want to create an effect. It won't leave me a lot of space for the third color, the blue, but that's okay, because I'm going to do more to the bonnet. There's an overall effect that I'm going to be chasing here, and I hope that it will work out. The beautiful thing is, if it doesn't work out, I can just delete the layers and I can try again. I've been doing quite a bit of that lately too, because I find I'm getting more finicky with the look that I want. Okay, so go to color palette, pick that purple, bang, done. Then we duplicate again. Same process, rinse and repeat. Oh, yeah, that's what I thought. So we've got a bit of a challenge here because this is a very different way in which the vehicle's been segregated for livery based on the design of the vehicle. And I believe the manufacturers are the ones that decide these things. I don't think it's Gran Turismo or Polyphony. I think it's the manufacturers that have the call on this. So I may have to concede the label or logo space to make this look a bit more nicer. Whoops. There we go. Never panic if you make an error, because you can back out of it and fix it. I haven't shown you another part of the menu yet, but I will in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to go into it right now actually. So that purple circle is obviously what I want to move. So I've been in this menu before, which is over here playing with the layers. What I haven't shown you is another menu that you can access to manipulate the layers, and when I mean manipulate, I mean the order of them. I said earlier on that this is a layer based design process, so you'll see next to each one there's a number. So that's layer 1, 2, 3, 4, so if I had them all stacked up on top of each other, that would be the stack. So I need to get into the purple, but if I need to move the layers, if I push my triangle button on my controller or your wheel, that brings up this menu, and you can see I can delete the layer, I can hide it, I can add a layer just one above it. So if I'm actually, if this is a 60 layer or an 80 layer design, I don't want to have to sit every time I create a new layer or add layer as it says at the top and then drag it all the way down to position 44 or 22. So I can quickly go to where I'm doing the design, I can select the layer and go bang, add one above it or add one below it. I can duplicate the layer straight away within the menu, or I can move the layer, which is all about obviously changing how the design might look, because a colour might overlap or a decal might overlap another decal, and you don't want that to be the case. Okay, I don't want to do any of that right now. I just want to access the layer. So bang, and I hit the X button and the layer's there for me to now move. So I'll move it down. Just don't ever try to rush when you're moving, because you want to have precision to make sure that you get it right. What I'm a little bit disappointed about is the fact that I'm not getting that same thicker bottom rim. So I'm going to manipulate the shape a little bit, and that's just R1 and me pushing up on the right joystick to give it a bit of a stretch look, and that's creating that fatter bottom rim at the front there. See how it's got the nice fat rim at the bottom? I'm trying to emulate. It doesn't have to be as fat, but I want to try and emulate that because I think that looks better than just if you look at the blue ring, it doesn't have much of a design impact in terms of the way it looks, whereas the purple one certainly does give that same sweeping sort of look. Like I said, I didn't want to go over the logo, but I kind of have to, so I'll have to deal with that later on. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the blue ring. So finish, go to the blue ring, select it, and I'm going to do the same thing. Drag it. I'm not sure whether I need to make sure that those gaps of black between the three are identical. I think that looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to see what it looks like if I do a second and a third run along the bonnet over above the headlights. In fact, I may even come down over the headlights on either side and then drag them up to the A-pillars on either side, just up to the windows. So to do that, I duplicate, and this time I'm moving it sideways for now. And what you'll get as the contours of the body change is you'll get your decal changing its appearance and look. So there's a little bit of work there. Interestingly, it's still cutting off. So I'm going to have to make additional decals and join them. That's always a bit of fun, but anyway. So that's that one. Now, I talked about duplicate on reverse. Oh, I didn't show you the projection thing, and I can show you that now because it's probably relevant. So duplicate on reverse, and bang, there you have it on the exact opposite side. So perfect alignment, both in terms of the distance down the bonnet and across the bonnet. Okay, so I talked about the projection thing. Now for me, what I try to do if I'm going to play with projections is I always tend to go back to the first decal, not the one that I've duplicated on reverse. Just makes it easier for me anyway. So the projection tool is all about the depth as it relates to the contours. So you've got an angle limit here, so if I move it, nothing's changing, but if I go back the other way, it disappears. It's kind of like saying I'm going to such an angle of looking at this decal that's been layered that you cannot see it. So as I go back, as you look at the contours of the wheel arch, more and more appear. So I'll go back to 0 because it's not changing it to do positive, so it's not going to achieve what I want to based on the contours. And then you've also got the depth limit, so you can see that's dragging it in as well. And then I can go out to get as much of the loop as I need. So that saves me having to join, so I'm happy that it's doing that. 10 won't get me all the way there because obviously there's a window. So I'll just be happy with 6, and we'll go to 7 just to be safe. Alright, so that's that, so I know it will work. Now I can do the same to the other side. Yeah, it's effectively just overriding the way that a layer just naturally gets plonked on a vehicle based on the contour of the vehicle. So for these more modern cars with their very specific little crevices and gaps and ridges, yeah, it's more of a challenge. Okay, so there we go, we've got duplication happening, and it looks, at the moment, I'm okay with how it looks. I may need to tilt it so that it brings it down more to the steering, the headlights, because you can see at the moment that angle is effectively going to end us up coming down to the side of the headlights and hitting the bottom purple part of that splitter, whereas I hoped for it to be over the headlights. So I'm still in here. If I hit this button, it allows me to edit the decal. So what I'm probably going to do, having done all that, is I'm probably going to delete the duplicated one. So I'm just back to, it's gone, back to this one, because I want to get this one right and then make sure the alignment on the other side is also correct. So I talked about the L1 button and the ability to modify it. Your R1 and your R2 buttons don't need to be don't need your L1 button to do what I'm about to do, but if I push the R2 button, you'll see it's tilting away. If I push the the R2 button, if I push the L2 button, which on your controller is the bottom left four-finger buttons, if I can use that term, because you're usually using your 2 thumbs for your directional joystick or your directional 4 buttons, and your right thumb for your cross, your square, your triangle, and your circle. So it's your L2 and your R2. So the L2s, tilt it back. I'm close to being where I want. I think that's probably where I want. So now I've done that, I will now duplicate that and reverse. And you can see that's now also going to, it's probably still not. Okay. This is the, talk about the little finer points of tweaking. Effectively, where I think I've ended up. And I think I want to move it over a bit to get that center headlight at the tip or apex of the shape. That's probably more accurate. Okay, let's go with that. And that should also bring that apex. Yeah, okay. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now we rinse and repeat the process again. Now I can do it one of 2 ways. I can take the existing shape and duplicate it, which is probably the smarter way of doing it. Or I could take the middle shapes, the purple and the red, and drag them across as I did to the blue one. But I've found that duplicating the shape once it's locked into a position is the safest way of getting your symmetry. So I'll duplicate, I'll drag it, I've dragged the right one, sorry, that's me being absent-minded. Okay, I'm going to discard that. And I'm going to go to, like I said, go to the original. The reason that I'm saying go back to the original, oh, I didn't delete it, so there's 2 there. If I do that, you see the cross grid point doesn't move. That's because it hasn't actually deleted it as a decal that I've created. So if I delete it, now there's only 1 there. If I go there, it'll go to the other one. The reason that I'm doing this is it might seem pedantic, but this is all about making sure your layering stays in order, and that you don't get confused if you ever have to get back to redo things when you're doing a big design. Like if you've got 150 decals on your vehicle, and then all of a sudden you realize you need to change something, but the layering's all wrong, you can find it very hard to get that piece right. So that's why I've done what I've done. Trust me, it will save you some frustration in the end. Okay, so duplicate, and now I can drag it forward. I want the red to come over the headlight lip line, if I can call it that, that sort of silvery accent line that's in front of the headlights. And ideally, I want to try and align it to the purple in the middle, even if it means I do lose that front end shape. As you can see, I've lost, but I think the overall effect will still be okay. Now here's the thing about layering. What you can now see is that because I'm doing it this way, I'm actually ending up in reverse. So I really should have dragged the red across first. And this is what I mean about the layering, about how you save yourself pain and frustration. If I drag the red loop in the middle first, I would get my layering perfect in order first time round. Because I didn't, I'm now having to go and correct that, because as you can see from the middle, the layering is red at the bottom, purple, then blue at the top. But now I've got blue at the bottom. That's okay. I can fix that. But it takes more time, and when you're doing a complex design, I think the record for time it's taken me to do a design was about 9 hours all up. No, sorry, about 15 hours all up to do one car, and I can show you that car. Because if you don't get your layering right, you can spend a lot of time being wasted. It's kind of like do it right the first time. For anybody in the artisan space or building space, or you've got to build something, put something together, do it right first time, and double check, remeasure, all those sorts of things. Same principle applies. So what I need to be doing is I need to be moving the blue below the purple. Whoops, picked the wrong one, didn't I? Yep, sorry, my bad. That, I made a mistake. My apologies. Let's try that again. I need to move the purple below that blue. And then all of a sudden, as you can see, the blue is now above the purple. So, I will now select the purple and duplicate it, and I'm going to have to go through that process again. Drag the purple down. Now, if you want to get exact symmetry in terms of me aligning these, I'm going to have to move this because that purple's coming in there and I don't want it there in that little duct where the big fan is. So that's going to be, it's still okay, I guess. If I want to get exact symmetry, there is a cheat I can use to do it. At the moment, I think I'm pretty close to the mark, so it'll be interesting to see how good my eye alignment is on this. I obviously need to change it to red. Same color as the middle. Like I said, I think I'm pretty close. I won't worry about the layering yet. I do need to fix it because, as you can see, the red is above the purple but below the blue, so it's kind of half in its right slot. What I'm going to do now is, and this is particularly handy if you have to write anything. So you get a white line, doesn't have to be white, it can be a different colour, obviously a colour that's different to what you're using. Zoom in, make sure you get right to the tip of your decal, like I'm seeing black. And that looks like it. I'm going to zoom back out. Oop. Not that far, just far enough to see the two. L1 button and whoops, wrong button. What am I doing? No, don't do that. Do that. Stretch it out. So now I'm going to stretch that line out across the front, and then I can go and have a look and see how good I did. Okay, if I move it down a bit. So it is a bit lower than the middle, so I was close but not perfect. So if I move it back up, I don't know whether other people doing their liveries are this pedantic or anal or particular, paranoid or obsessive, whichever of those words you want to apply. I just think that if you're going to do it, try and do it as good as you can, and for your own satisfaction, not so much for the benefit of others, but more for yourself to know that you did it the best you could. Alright, so now I've done that line, I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to go back to my red, zoom in, and I'm going to adjust it to get it. Yeah, you can see it as it flashes. You'll see the little overlay of red on the white. So it's a very handy way to, I'm just pushing it up just little bits till I get, okay, I think I'm about right. Yep, I can't see any red going over the white there. So I'm going to say that's okay. Now, having done that, like I said, I did go a bit out of whack, but I think that's okay. I think that's okay. So I'm going to duplicate on reverse. No, I'm not. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with the layering, and the layering needs to be below the purple. So hot triangle, move layer, drop it there, and then all of a sudden, as you can see, the purple is now above the red. Now I'm going to leave the white line there on the other side because now I'm going to duplicate this on reverse. So select it, duplicate on reverse. I don't think I need to apply, oh yes I do. I haven't done purple yet. I do need to apply some angles on this, I didn't notice it, so let's go. That one's showing as 7. I need to go to 10, see the top, it's gone all the way. So I need to do the same on the other. Just so you can see, I'll move over there and zoom a bit. So I'm going to go up to 10 to get the whole thing, and I'll need to do the same on the purple. Go back, grab the purple. This is going to be fun because the layering on the purple is not exactly where it should be. Let me do the layering first. Yep, beautiful. There you go. Look at that. I like that. No, I want 10. Okay, now I'm going to duplicate on reverse, and layering should be fine, and it is. It's above the red. And then all of a sudden we have a front end. Now I don't know what people think, whether they think that's looking okay or it's not. I think it's quite a good, yeah, I mean the white obviously is changing the look at the front a bit. I don't know whether it's a positive thing. The interesting thing is that it's come in below the line. Now that can happen. See there, the gap? That could actually be me as I drag the line out. I may not have actually dragged it dead straight. So I'll go into the line and just do a bit of a manipulation of it just to see. I'm going to zoom out a bit. What I'm looking for is that the 2 points at either side, so the left and the right, I get an equivalent gap between the two, because that then tells me that they're definitely aligned. A bit more of a tilt that way. Oh, too much. Yeah, you got to be delicate. Yeah, so if you look at that, the theory of two fixed points at opposite ends of a scale having an equivalent gap would indicate symmetry. So that's fine. They are aligned as you'd expect because it was a duplicate. So that's the front end. I've now got to think about what I'm going to do at the back, because the back is a whole different proposition. But my personal taste, I quite like that. I think that's come up looking pretty good. And the thing that I want to say about it is the simplicity of what we just did. I know that you may have felt that it took a long time, but that was because I was explaining the how-to. If I was just sitting here not chatting with you and talking you through it, I probably could have done that bonnet in about 4 minutes. So, this is what I mean. Like, there's a certain elegance around the simplicity of using some of these shapes to get what are pretty striking effects. Like I said, we started with a circle. And we had 3 of them, 3 different colors, and we've ended up with that. For me, the message to anybody that's sitting there, and I had a guy last night in a room in a car show, sorry, not in a car show, it was a different room, talking about liveries, and he was asking, how do I do it? And I think for a lot of people, particularly my friends that I race with regularly on here, one in particular, a lovely chap in the States, affectionately known in the game as Tugger, and great guy, loves racing, loves cars, and has a design mindset. He makes a whole stack of things because he's a Boilermaker most of his life, but he's never gone in to do a livery because he doesn't know what it's about. He just sees some of these liveries and goes, wow, that looks hard, I don't think I can do that. I really want people to see this design, and even though you may not think it's fantastic, you may not like it, you may think it's stupid even, I don't know. The point is that it doesn't take a lot to come up with a unique design that does have visual impact. Be it to your liking or not, it still have visual impact. So that's my message. Okay, so I'm going to quieten down a bit, and just have a bit of a think and a play at the back now as to what I'm going to do. I'm thinking that I'm going to run with a horizontal circle look to keep the theme going at the back. So I will basically just concentrate on doing that and not chat. Just to give you an explanation of what I'm doing now, I'm just tidying up. And again, it's important that you get continuity in your design and your. So you can see I haven't done the wing yet, but when I do the wing, that'll all blend in nicely. Yeah, I don't mind that. I think it speaks to the rest of the car. There's a link there in the colouring. And I think it showcases the natural shape of the back of this car, that lining up of that rear spoiler lip with the circles, or ovals as I probably should call them. This diffuser I can probably play with the colouring just like I did on the front, so I'll probably do that. Sorry, because I'm in close, it takes a little bit longer to zoom around the car. I'll get rid of that white line now, I don't need it. I'm not planning on doing anything else there. But you can see just then how easy, if I'm not talking, how quickly it is for me to just bang whack that in, and the immediate visual you get from it. Okay, so to do the diffuser, I go to Other. I probably should have done the rear wing first, but that's okay. And I normally just go for a block shape. I find that's the easiest. Spin it round, test your integrity around the horizontal. So that to me looks pretty good. So that's pretty much perfectly horizontal. And because I did a theme of 3 colours, oops. No button's what I want. Yep. I'm going to replicate that. I think red was in the middle, wasn't it? I should be remembering better than that. Yes, indeed, red it is. So we'll go with red in the middle of the diffuser as well. Okay, now again, it's not laziness, it's more about accuracy. So I'll pull that. Now I may need to stretch it by the look of it. Yeah, I need to stretch it, that's a shame, but anyway, we do what we do. What did I do on the front? Actually looks quite effective in an all red too, doesn't it? So I did do red and purple, that's what I thought, and then a blue highlight. Okay. Alright, so that'll be purple. Duplicate on reverse, save time. Bang, done. And then there's a blue highlight. So to do a blue highlight, I've got to add a decal. Bang. Now I could be inventive, but I'm more inclined to opt for a simpler look that I guess is more in line with the front end as well. Let's see, I'm not over the moon yet. Okay, I think that doesn't blend in well, but I've got an idea to make it better. Again, you've got to test your alignment here. Make sure you're definitely horizontally square. Yeah, see, I'm not in line, see that white line? So I tip it. That looks better. Okay, so zoom her in a bit. Now I could do that, or I could go for a more circular shape. I think I'm inclined to go for a more circular shape, but with a similar effect. So the baby perfectly aligned already, don't need to play with that. Just shrink it down a bit, and I don't want to go overboard, but I think if I make that a little bit wider and change that angle as it comes up the vertical, maybe a bit higher. How do I cover the whole middle part? These are the more finicky aspects of design that you're trying to make it look harmonious. Alright, I think if I do that and go a bit wider, what's it look like in the colour? Sometimes you have to go to the colour to see whether it looks right. No, that's a bit too fat, as I call it. I'm going to go a bit higher too, I think. Maybe that just captures the dots. The other option is I remove the horizontal piece, but or at least narrow it maybe. I think if I narrow that piece, I'm happy with that, but I think if I narrow that piece, that might actually be better. I'm going to have to do a bit of work around the layering to sort that out, but that's okay, I can fix that. I'll bring that inside, and if I narrow that as well so that it doesn't go over the lip. It's not what you want when you're trying to get your Alright, I'm gonna have to cheat. It's not cheating, but I'm gonna have to add some more layers to get the effect that I want, and correct a few things. So I think that looks better than having it go over the lip, but it means I've got to do a bit more work. First thing I want to do, just going to decide on a shape that's going to tidy that up. I probably need an arch shape. Problem with the arch shapes is, whilst they're handy, there's a limitation that means it takes a bit more time to resolve. So the arch shape, I'll leave it in white for now. I need to bend that out a lot. Actually, I need to flip it too. So I talked about flipping. So there you go, that's the flip. Go back to the shape itself. Need to really flatten it out. See what I mean? Like I'm achieving the angle that I want to tidy it up, but I'm going to have to do it several times to achieve the actual outcome that I want, which is to remove the blue totally from that line. So I'm just making sure I get it right, because I'm going to have to duplicate this several times above it. It becomes red, obviously. It needs to sit above it. So I've got to duplicate. I think I'm going to have to do probably 5 of these to get what I need. So like I said, you know, if you want to do it right, the process can be finicky, can be timely, and certainly I accept if some people say that it's, you know, you're just too pedantic about it. I'm coming down now to get this line exactly right. Oops, too far. Finish. Get away from the layer. I just want to see something without the cross in front of it. Thank you. But I don't know. I think that's a better look than what I started with. You may differ. Please subscribe, comment. Certainly interested in the feedback. I'm pretty happy with the body. Like I said, I've got to do the wing, which I'll do now. The wing's an interesting one. I tend to put logos on there, so I've got to decide whether I want to go for a base color or I want to continue the effect, because if I continue the effect, the challenge you have is that a logo generally will be in only one color, and so therefore trying to get that color to be a color that all the letters are clearly visible becomes a challenge. So what I'm going to do is I am going to modify the tips of the wings, and you can see it says rear wing left, rear wing right. That normally relates to a racing wing where you've got the side, for want of a better term, the side panels where you could put logos on. With this wing there are no side panels, so I'm just going to go for top, and I want a shape, and I think it's just a square shape looking at what I've done, and I really just want to get that continuity of that line. You can see that blue line, so just tilt it to square. I think that's pretty close to the mark. I may just be a bit out. Bit too far, bit angle change. That's pretty close, I think. You don't need to worry about, see how you can see it flashing over the other paint? It's not going to appear because that's not the wing surface, so you don't have to shrink the shape to fit the exact area in this case, because I'll now colour that blue and it will all work. And then what I'll do is I'm doing a flip horizontally and duplicate to make sure it matches, so you can see now it matches the other side. If I'd left it the same way, you would have seen it tilt rear to front as opposed to front to rear as it does at the moment. So that's that, and for the moment, until I decide on what logo I want on the back of that wing, I'm going to leave them alone. Obviously that wing pops up, but when it's retracted, that gives you that nice line. Yeah. Okay, to the roof. Now again, with roofs I tend to try and lean towards either a sponsor logo that you know is heavily associated with the Toyota brand, for example, Denso, or the actual brand itself. And in this case, I'm going to use the brand, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it look pretty cool, make it stand out. Oops, wrong button. Let's go back. We want body, and we're going to go to roof. And again, I won't talk much, I'll just do the work and you can watch. Thanks for staying on, by the way. Thanks for watching. Not that I'm finished, but I just wanted to say thank you. We're going for the similar thing here. We're going for the... And again, this will have relevance. Which way do I want this logo to show up? Front way. I need the roof shape to be a bit different. Anyway, I'll have to work with what I've got. No, actually, I'm going to push this a bit. Thing about doing the roof is your controls are orientated from the view, so this is how it opened up, and in that direction the joysticks respond exactly how you expect them to do. If I spin it 90 degrees or 180 degrees, the joystick is in reverse effectively, or to the side, if that makes sense, in terms of your controlling of the shapes and their movements and manipulations. Yeah, just thought I'd mention that. Yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see. What I could do is, rather than actually put the logo in, is actually build the logo out myself, which would involve me doing this basically. Which I wasn't planning to do. I was planning to actually put the logo there, but let's just see how we go. There you have it. One Toyota logo. However, with this I need to layer it differently. The blue really needs to sit behind the purple, so I will do that. In fact, it probably needs to sit behind the red too. Okay, so I still do need to edit that, because at the moment, because it's sitting behind, it needs to fit in. It may mean, oops, making it a bit thinner too. Alright, wasn't my plan, but I have achieved something in that there is an absolute synergy in terms of the design. I actually like the fact that I've overlapped the circle to the roof. I've got a bit of blank real estate just there in that C pillar area, or B pillar in this case. I'm not inclined to fill it, same with that space there. I think that the way it is works. Okay, so now I just have to decide what I want to put on the rear wing. So let's go have a look at what we've got to choose from. Go into collection, and we'll just see what we can leverage in here. That's quite nice, isn't it? And if I can manipulate the colour, stretch it out, heighten it. Alignment. Don't you hate it? 7-letter words. But I think that's in the middle. Ooh, okay, I can play with the colouring, but my limitation on this is I can only choose one colour. So let's see which of the 3 colours has the most impact. See how the whole thing is changing? So that's all red, all purple, all blue. To be honest, I'm not actually a fan of any of those options versus the original colour. I think that's more visually impressive. So the question is that enough? Don't know. For now I'm going to leave it. Which leaves me to the one last thing. We'll have a preview so you can have a good look at it. Oh, I haven't done the mirrors. Sorry, my apology. With mirrors, what I had done previously was nothing other than to, maybe put them in a contrasting colour. What I've decided of late is that you can really put a nice finishing touch to the overall layout using the mirrors. So I'm going to try. That mirror itself is a bit tricky because it's quite a slim mirror, but let's see whether we can't carry the theme through with the mirrors. It's going to be tough because they're quite small as you can see, and the contouring is going to make it let's see what we can do about. That's not going to help us. That's not going to help us unless I make them really small, obviously. Oh, yeah, no. Okay. That's what we're going to be working with. Oh, sorry, my bad. Where does that go? Okay, so we can't do it on that black surface. We can only work with the grey surface, so that's the first challenge. If I make this bigger, it gets all out of whack. I'm better off to make them really narrow and overlap them that way. Alright. See what we're working with. Okay. Okay, the only thing I need to do, I think, is replicate that, which I can probably do, but also add a layer, which I'm going to have to drop, but we need a whole layer to yep. Don't panic, folks. I know what you're thinking. Oh, what's he done? There you go. Better? Alright, let's go again here. Try not to confuse you, but what I'm trying to do is maintain layer consistency, so bear with me. Don't need that. Okay. Now I'm going to add a layer because I'm going to do something to the stem of the mirror, or the supporting arm, I guess is probably the right word to use. I think because it's such a long arm, I'm going to do it. I wouldn't ordinarily. I'm going to spin this. Oh, come back. Okay. Whoops, wrong button. My bad. That's interesting. It's not wanting to do anything. That's really weird. Ah, okay. I'm sort of trying to fight with the profiling. Why don't we take it down any lower? Why is that? I may not have a win here. Doesn't want me to go any lower on the stem than that. I think for the grief it's giving me, I don't think I'm going to achieve something that I'm going to be happy with. It's just, unfortunately, that angle in the design and the way the graphics work, it doesn't want to play ball. So I think I will just discard it. I could just try to give the stem colours, but alright, I'll try. If I don't try, I don't know. I'm just going to do it on the one side first, just to see if I can get a... yeah, see, this is what happens. It goes a bit funny because of the angle. Sorry, my sounds of amusement are more about the way the game is interpreting the movements I'm putting in to move the shape around and manipulate it, because it's kind of like, oh, you want to do that, so I'm going to do this. I don't know, that's going to look any good. Okay, that's not too bad. I don't think I'm going to get away with a third. Whoops, get out of there. I don't think I'm going to get away with a third one though. I'm pretty sure that that shaft is going to... yeah, look at this. Oh, I might get lucky here. Be a miracle if it does it. Okay. I don't mind that. Don't know about what you guys all think, but that's actually come out better than I kind of thought it might. It's not great, but let's run with it. I have two. One of these doesn't belong. I'm gonna remove that one. Okay. I didn't reverse it already, did I? No. Otherwise I'd have two sitting here. Select it, hit it. I see how I did the flip. That's again just to be safe. Alright. That's about the best we could have hoped for, I think. I just want to have one more crack at the front logo. So for that we need body. Oh, sorry. Front. Collection. I'm going to go and get that red Toyota logo and see if it'll overlay in a nice way. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. In fact, sometimes you can get lucky and it actually creates a really nice 3D look. Yeah, at the moment it's not looking like it's going to overlay. The only other option is if the logo itself actually falls under the other, what they call the other. Well, that doesn't look too bad either, the worst case scenario. I'll leave that there, just in case. But what I'm going to do is have another crack this way, because it might well be that it falls into the other group of decal section. Oh, I've got to get the YouTube stuff done at the back too, but you don't need to watch that. I think you'll find that, unless you want to see how you do lettering, but lettering's very, very basic. Alright. Not seeing it. It's right there, but it's not showing, is it? Ah, bummer. Alright, discard that. I think the best I can hope for is that red ring around it, which I quite like. So that's what we're going to run with. So, that pretty much is the livery done. The only thing we haven't done is wheels, and we haven't done my wording, so let's quickly do that now. So I said I was going to use the back. The number plate itself will not be big enough for me to write what I want to write. The wording will be too small. So I'm going to use that gap in the middle there. So I just need to decide on the colours. And these are the letters right here. So I for Iflowboy. Now I'm not going to be able to run with a big font because, again, like I said, and I'm going to have to adjust them to get them in line. If I want to get this correct so that all the letters are the same size and everything, I do need to put some borders on each side. I want to go for the red lettering, but the reality is the purple lettering would be the smartest one to use based on the colours. Okay, so I'm going to add borders. All borders are same as I did at the front with the line. Bring it up, zoom in, stretch it out, find your top. Now obviously the contour of this piece of the vehicle, this panel, is going to make the letters warp. I know that, but that's okay. All I can do is work within the parameters I've got. Alright, so now I've got my letter sizing. I can continue. And now it's just a simple case of spelling out the words. Always suggest before you start aligning your words you change the colour. The main reason for that is that it's easier to see against your background colours. So, you know, I'm not playing with the white letter in a white background there, I'm playing with the purple letter on the white background. You can see how the contours are changing the angle of the letter. So it's a bit of work, and I'm going to have to go with really close spacing. To fit this nicely. Trying to find the right balance between getting them aligned against each other and aligning them based on the aspect of the panel. So you can see there's a bit of a widening from bottom to top. Once I take the white barriers away, it should look okay. So I now shut up and just focus on doing the lettering. Now you've got the gist of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Just one little tip, you will save yourself a bit of time if you become proficient at using both of the joysticks on your controller as you're doing this, because you can move as you shrink the letters to fit. Ooh, too far there. As which you just saw as I was moving it. Again, you know, I try to do quality work, I try to get alignment, I try to get symmetry with sizing, etc, etc. Up to yourself how thorough you want to be with that. At the end of the day, if someone can read it, who cares? But for me, it's, you know, again, it's just about the overall quality of the finish and the work that you do around creating it. So, whoa, went a bit fast then, didn't I? Again, you know, if you've got good eyes and you've got good depth perception, you'll get this done a lot quicker. Whoops, sorry. Note to self: make sure you've got your fingers off the buttons before you change something. That's better. That was just me being slack with my finger coordination. So, as I said, it's Iflowboy. Well, you already know that because you're already here. You can subscribe. I do a fair bit of Minecraft as well, and that is not around fighting monsters. So if you're into that sort of thing, no point coming to watch my Minecraft videos or broadcasts. If you're into creating, then by all means, hopefully there is something worthwhile for you to see at Iflowboy. Oops, wrong error again, talking. I like to build things. Sadly, in my previous PS3 Minecraft world, a friend of mine's son accidentally, he never meant to do it, he just accidentally wiped my world. But on PS4 I've started building again. In fact, I've just started doing the very early stages of building a new city, because yes, I did build cities and monuments, yeah, so I like to create things. So there will be some other videos you can look at the moment that'll take you through some houses, what I'll call a manor, and a massive castle. But the video of the castle, just to let you know, is nowhere near comprehensive. In fact, to do the full tour, you probably need about 2 hours of time for me to take you through. What did I do then? That's what I did. Take you through the whole castle, because it's very big, very detailed, and as you could imagine with a castle, very labyrinthian in terms of where a pathway or a corridor leads you. So you know, I do make the offer that if you subscribe, I will happily take you through a tour. My offer is available at any time. However, it'd make more sense if I had a few people watching at the same time rather than repeating roughly an hour, 2 hour tour. Okay. Now, what I always do, and again this is just about visual impact, is I would normally have my ampersand symbol, or this @ symbol. If you don't know, it's called an ampersand. That would typically have a different colour So in this case we'll go for the red. And then I can remove the borders because I don't need any more lettering. We get ourselves a clean look. And then we can add the YouTube logo, which is in the collections. I think I said I was going to use white. I might have a rethink about that. Might be better in blue. Tidy that up. I do shrink it down a bit and make it a bit wider, I think. Just to get the visual acuity happening. Okay. I do like doing number plates. When I say doing number plates, I mean, you know, having a bit of fun with what you write on the plates. I try to make use of the existing lettering if I can, to have a bit of a joke. In this case, I can't because the lettering font I cannot replicate. So, first step is to blank out the plate, which that does straight away. What I might do is I might get a little bit clever though, actually, because of the colouring behind. I'll try and get a bit smarter here. Wouldn't normally do this, but I think, nah, you know what, I should have probably blanked that out first, shouldn't I? Okay. Alright. Let's blank it out all together first with a black. And then I'll do what I was doing. Okay. And then all I need to do is move that layer, drop it. There, and I'm back with my blue strip. Beautiful. What I'll do again to keep the continuity is I'll duplicate that and drop it. All things being equal, if I change that to purple, it should be done. Purple. Okay. What it means is I'm going to have to do red lettering, but that's okay. Like I said, change the colour first, it'll help you with your alignment. Now, I talked about alignment, and I'm being a bit bad here because I'm not using any guidelines. I'm just relying on my eyes, which you know, are okay, but they're certainly not 2020. Okay, if I'm out there, it's by a fraction, so we'll run with that. Like I said, I like to have a bit of humour. Hopefully, as I'm doing this, the penny will drop, or you'll put two and two together, and you'll get where I'm coming from and what I'm actually saying. And you may not, and that's okay too. It's pretty on the money, isn't it? A little bit out at the top. It's pretty good. Please feel free to subscribe and to put in a comment if you've already figured out what this is. I think it's pretty obvious, but maybe you don't get it. I don't know. Sorry, I've been lazy. I didn't change the paint colour. Bang, bang. But hopefully you get that. Alright. Like I said, I like to have a bit of fun with number plates, but you may not get what that actually means, but the hint is this is an FT, a Toyota FT1. And you may also be familiar with the acronym WTF. So hopefully that has solved the riddle for you if you couldn't figure it out. Alright, the last thing I'm going to do is revisit the wheels. Like I said, they are beautiful wheels, so I'm really going to have to in fact, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to paint the wheels, because that will help me. So you can see special colours. I'll show you those now just so you can see how many there are. It's very hard to see the impact of the different type of colour on a wheel. I'm just trying to, but you can see that's a metallic flake finish. That's a matte finish. Then you've got a polished liquid metal look, so you can, but you know, a wheel, it's not really doing it justice to show you the difference, but the myriad of colours is quite mind-blowing, I will say that. The only thing that might get my attention here is if there's a purple that speaks to me, I guess. I mean, I'm not really thinking a purple wheel, I'm thinking more of that blue wheel. I think it'll have more of an impact and more of a contrast with the black, or a red. But just to satisfy my own curiosity, that's on their standard wheel. This isn't really a red, it's more a pink. They regard that as a red, but I'm not really a fan of that. I'm a bit of a sucker for low profiles and designs that showcase the inside rim as well. I don't know why, it just, to me, it seems to give more visual impact.